Hi everyone, new video today. Sorry again for not making one for ages. I'm getting really bad at actually sitting down and doing them. I've actually had this one recorded for a little while and I just haven't uploaded it. So I'm going to do all my Swans and Michael Gira and Michael Gira related things that I've got. I love Swans, like one of my favourite bands. I've got a fair collection of stuff of theirs. Missing a few bits and pieces, later stuff. Got the early period pretty well covered, but yeah, I think they're just absolutely brilliant. Swans was the band of Michael Gira, I think it's pronounced actually, and I think he's an incredibly talented guy. He seems to be able to sort of turn his hand to a lot of different styles quite well. He's some sort of folky things, folky-esque stuff, and there's a really heavy sort of industrial type stuff that they did. And I say until recently, the last sort of 3 albums, when they reformed, I think 2008ish, I think it was, until then they sort of remained one of the great kind of undiscovered bands, a bit like Coil, I suppose. Say at least until recently. I sort of started listening to them in 2012 when the Sia album came out. And I thought that was just one of the best things I'd ever heard, and I sort of, since then, have been buying up all that sort of back catalogue to listen to, so I've been really enjoying it. So the first one I've got is this one. This is the first Swans EP, Record Store Day reissue. It's a really good time to be interested in Swans as well, because they're on mute at the moment. Well, their European distributors are mute, and they're reissuing all their back catalogue at the moment, because a lot of it's sort of out of print and very rare, even on CD. So this is the first one that they did, the very first EP, just called Swans, self-titled EP, 4-track EP, and this was originally on the Labour label, or Labor, it was Labour, Labor, something like that. And I got this, is the most recent one I've got actually, and I was really quite pleasantly surprised with this, because the early stuff is extremely heavy, very brutal. This is a little bit lighter actually, and it really reminded me actually of this, the first Sonic Youth album, which was released around I think the same year, I think. Obviously both bands from New York, and it was I really sort of heard a really big similarity there. I really enjoyed that Sonic Youth album as well, so I was really pleasantly surprised with that. That's really good though. I think I got that in Probe Records in Liverpool the other day actually, when I went a trip to Liverpool. Probe, it's quite a well-known record store in Liverpool. That was good. And then that's the first phase. Swans are lots of different phases with lots of different people, and lots of lineup changes and style changes. The first sort of phase, the heavy phase I call it, that's the kind of first one of that. And then they've got this one, first sort of album proper, Filth, which is really, really brutal. This is one of the nice mute reissues. This came out last year. It was originally released in 1983 on Glenn Branca's Neutral label, which actually is the same label that first Sonic Youth album is on, Neutral Records. So this is the mute reissue. Really good. This comes with 2 posters as well, which are really nice, sort of reproduction old gig posters, which is really cool. This is the first appearance of Norman Westberg on this album as well, who's the sort of the next longest running member of Swans, and he had a really good, very distinctive distorting guitar style, which is really interesting. But that's very brutal though, that, very good. And I didn't think they could get heavier than that until the next one came out. So I heard this, which is the second sort of proper album, Cop, and this is absolutely the heaviest album ever made. And it makes all that kind of black metal stuff, any kind of metal album, look really tame. This is on a different planet of heaviness. It's called Cop, and it was on the very brief period when Swans were on Some Bizarre, Steve-O's Some Bizarre label. The label it's sort of on is done as K422 is the name of the label, which I looked into, and that was a sort of a subsidiary branch of Some Bizarre, which also released Coil's Force and Form label stuff. We printed them as well. That's really good. It's got a really great photo of them on the back as well, the early early Swans lineup on the back, and it's sort of 4 quite normal looking and unassuming people, but that sound coming out of this is really, really nasty. And they've got this really clever thing that they do. I think it's really hard to do well, where it's really, really slow and down tempo, but extremely heavy. Which I think that's quite hard to do well, I think, for me. That's a really good one. That's reasonably rare. That's a first edition on, say, Some Bizarre. There was sort of an EP that kind of went with that. This one, this is kind of 4-track EP. Swans released a lot of 4-track EPs in the early days. This is known as, amongst Swans fans, as the Young God EP. Again, that was on K422, the Some Bizarre label again. That's not too common, actually. That's reasonably rare as well. So hopefully a lot of this stuff will be reissued, I imagine. So that's the sort of first phase of Swans. They kind of changed phase, and they kind of started using the sort of more sort of keyboards and things, and they added Jarbo, the extra member, who sort of did. She did sort of half the vocal duties with Michael Gira, which is quite interesting. They sort of either took it in turns per track or sort of laid it up, and they sort of released this sort of series of albums I call the Money period. This is one of the first ones, Greed. I can't remember which one came first. It was Greed and Holy Money. They were sort of sister albums. I can't remember which one came out first. Again, these are on the Some Bizarre K422 label. I think Holy Money is my favourite one. I think that's got some really nice. There's some sort of different versions of the same tracks on these as well. There's I think Fool. There's 2 versions of Fool on. There's sort of alternate versions on each of these, but they are different. Different albums. Very good though. And then there was also an accompanying EP for both of them as well, which is these two, Time Is Money Bastard and A Screw, which that one actually took me ages to get for some reason. It's not that rare, but it took me a long time to get it. These two, I think, they're just as good as the albums. They're really worth having. There's some really great stuff on, especially this one, Sealed in Skin. It's a really good standout track on that. Very good, and I say the title track as well is quite interesting, sort of layered up drums and things. They're both very good. They're worth having. Good sort of accompaniments to the albums. And after that, I don't think I'm missing anything after that. I think the next album released after that was this one, Children of God, and this was on their own label. I think it was on Young God Records, possibly. Oh no, Product. This was on, yeah, Product. That's a good one. This is again, they've sort of entered their kind of gothy phase. They've started using kind of more standard rock format, standard sort of band format a bit more. This is it's not one of my favourite one, this one. I think it's one of the more popular ones of Swans sort of stuff, but for me, not one of my favourites. This is quite rare. This would be good for a reissue. Gatefold double album, very gothy. So they're all there, the sort of classics line up there, Norman Westberg and Jarbo and Michael Gira, all there. The art, it's got terrible artwork though, this one. Not always been Swan's strong point, their album artwork's definitely not brilliant. This one especially is very, very poor. But that is a good album though, definitely. Not my favourite one, but definitely must have. That's one of their sort of central core albums of their collection, definitely. There was a live album that they released, sort of went with that as well. This one, Feel Good Now. This is kind of an unofficial bootleg kind of thing. The quality of this isn't great. The pressing isn't very good. It's weird as well that it opens at the top, not the side, and things like this. It's quite strange. It comes with a poster in. It's more of a collector's item than something to play, really. It's worth having just for the photo on the front, I think, of Michael Gira with the kids. Oh, that's quite funny. Then again, there's all the guys on the back there. So it was 1987 European tour, I think. Yeah, on the front there, 1987 European tour. Live one, and then around about the same time, Michael Gira and Jarbo, the lady I said who did the vocals, the singer, and she did the keyboards and pianos and things. They released 2 albums. These 2 albums under the name Skin, or World of Skin. I think These were on product as well, same as the Children of God album. These are very good. They're worth having. I think I preferred this one a little bit more. There's one where they seem to swap vocals on it. This one she does all the singing on. This one Michael Gira does all the singing on. I think I prefer this one's a little bit better. I think this one's very gothy. This one's quite. This has got some really good standout stuff on. I can't remember the track names very well, to be honest. I'm really bad with that sort of thing. But if you're interested in Swans, those are definitely worth getting. Michael Gira kind of gone on record as saying he doesn't like absolutely everything on these, but they're definitely worth a play. They're not too common as well. This one's a little bit more uncommon than this one for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on there, but they're definitely worth listening to. Again, this is a lovely thing. This is fantastic. I've been waiting for this for a long time. This is the new reissue of the albums. Well, the albums that came after this, there is one missing. I'm missing an album called The Burning World, which they did, which is the kind of really folky acoustic album. And I think that's sort of, amongst Swans fans, regarded as a kind of low watermark of their career. It's their most sort of commercially popular album, but definitely their worst album, I would say. At least for me. I'm sure people will disagree with me, but that was a very folky album. Once they'd sort of done that, they came back with these two albums, White Light from the Mouth of Infinity and Love of Life, where they sort of returned to the kind of gothy type thing that they were doing, but they started to incorporate the kind of folk elements into it as well. So that's really quite an interesting way as well. This is some of their best stuff. I'll whip it out and show you. This is the new, this is the 2015 reissue, and it came as a set. It was originally released. I'll try and pop them out. They're quite difficult to get out, I seem to remember. There we are. This comes with two posters again. They're like their collectabilia, I think, Swans. But these are very good albums. So that's your first one there, White Light from the Mouth of Infinity. Sort of rabbit period, I call this. I think this is one of my favourite Swans albums, definitely double album. This one was released first, and then afterwards they released this one, Love of Life. And then with the box came with the second part, and then you put the first bit in with it. And this is sort of a really good sort of replica of how that was originally released. I think it looks to me like it's quite a good copy. I've been waiting for that to come out. These albums have remained kind of unreleased since they were first done, and they were very expensive even on CD. I think they're I can't remember the exact year of them. I'm really bad at remembering dates and things. I think they're sort of like early 90s, 91, 92 I think. But they're both really good. For me, I think this is my favourite one. This has got some really good tracks like Failure and things like that, very good. So they're definitely, if you can get one, I don't think these have sold out yet. They have released both of these separately now as well, so you don't have to buy the box set version as well, but the box set version comes with the insert that you get with the CD release as well. Which has the Omniscience kind of artwork in from the Omniscience live CD. I think that's sort of that was the cover of it, and they kind of appropriated the artwork for this release. And you also get a CD of kind of the singles from this, the kind of sort of the 12-inch singles and things like that. And there's a few bits. I think there's a few things off the Skin albums, I think, as well, possibly. There's a few bits and bobs on there. I haven't actually listened to that properly yet. I must play that. So that's definitely a good one. That's sort of two of Swan's best records, definitely. So those are worth having. I'm missing a few of their later albums. They're very hard to get hold of. The sort of Young God self-release ones, Soundtracks for the Blind and The Great Annihilator, which are really good. And that's where they've gone into their kind of drony, more experimental ambient type stuff, which unfortunately are extremely rare and have not been reissued yet, so I'm hoping that they're going to be next. I would love to have LP reissues of them. They're sort of hundreds of dollars at the moment and very uncommon. It'd be nice if Soundtracks for the Blind got a vinyl release as well. That'd be really nice. I think it'd be about 4 LPs long or something, but That would make quite a cool box set, I think, so hopefully they'll do that. The next thing I have is this. This is a Michael Gira album. This is a kind of a compilation of his kind of solo-y stuff, I think. This was on Lumberton. It was released, what year was it? 2006, I think this came out. Very cool though. As you can see, this is actually autographed by Michael Gira as well. I got this very cheaply. I don't know why it was so cheap, but there you go. That's definitely his signature. Which turns out it's not that correct. Michael Gira goes in for signing everything. He's a big signer of his stuff, and he does a lot of custom artwork and things like this. Especially with their new albums that they've done. He does a really good. He's quite good at raising his own funds for his albums and things. He'll do like limited edition albums that he's drawn himself by hand to raise the money for recording and things like that, which is a really nice way of doing it. So yeah, that's a good one. And then I think after Swans kind of stopped functioning, and Michael Gira was doing things on his own. I say he reformed Swans. I think it was 2008-ish. I think he reformed the band, and he had an album called My Father Will Guide Me Up a Rope to the Sky, which I haven't actually got a vinyl copy of, unfortunately, but I have played it. It is very good, which I need to get. And after that, there was another 2 albums which have sort of brought kind of Swans to the sort of wider public. Actually, they've been very successful. This one, the Seer, triple LP. This is the mute version, the European mute version of it. I'm not sure what the Young God version's like. The mute pressings are always really good. Some of those mute reissues, they always sound excellent. They're really good quality pressings. This is, I think, one of my favourite albums of all time. Definitely, this one is really, really good. I actually prefer this to the one that came after, which I think a lot of people sort of would disagree with me about. But this one's just got a weird charm to it, which I like. I love the painting on the front. You can see the sort of dog head painting there. I think that's really, really good artwork as well. So there's lots of reviews of this online. If you want to hear it, you can just play it. I'm not going to chat too much about how it sounds, but very, very big, noisy sound. A lot of guest vocals on here. I think it's Karen O from Yeah Yeah Yeahs does some vocals on it and things, but it's amazing how a band that's been going since 1982 can suddenly reappear kind of, 20, 30 years later in their 60s and be making the best music they've ever made. It's really quite rare in music. It's I think everyone would agree with me. They are actually releasing their best stuff at the end of their careers now. So yeah, after that it was this one, 2000 and it came out at the end of 2014, I think, possibly. I can't remember exactly. This is To Be Kind. This featured on a lot of lists of the best album of the year kind of lists that year, and this is an absolute stonker. Again, triple LP. They did a quite extensive tour of this as well, which I didn't, unfortunately, I couldn't go to see, but the live performances of it have been really, really good and got done really well. And I think Michael Gira, they are releasing another album this year. I can't remember exactly what the name of it is now, but that should be out within the next few months, I think. And Michael Gira said that's going to be the last kind of album of this phase of Swans. He's going to sort of retire the current phase, and I don't think he'll retire the band completely. He'll just change the sort of format again, and like he always does, bring different people in, change the sound, change the way the albums are made and presented. It's got a very few people in music who do that really well. I think Trent Reznor's very similar with Nine Inch Nails. He kind of every now and again sort of retires the current lineup of the band, changes everything around, changes the way the music's presented and things like that. And I'd be interested to see after the next album comes out what Michael Gira will do next with Swans, if he'll continue with the Swans name or leave it again for a while. But I can't imagine he won't return to it. So there you go. That's what I've got from Swans. Anyway, I hope that's okay. I mean, I am missing Swans have got a lot of stuff, and I'm missing a fair amount. But there's a fairly good run of records there. Those are all really good albums and definitely worth a play. So yeah, I hope that was all right. Let me know what you think. Thanks very much.